And we are back. Appreciate y'all tapping in with us on this lovely, man, it's the damn things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's game time almost already, bro. What is it, Thursday?
Yep.
On this Thursday of the Doing All Right podcast, you know, the Monday Night Football bumped us back an extra day. So, short week for the Cowboys. It's going to be another short week for the Cowboys. Then it's going to be Thursday to Thursday. So, we're in that time of the year where a bunch of games going to be happening real fast. So, you know, we always tend to look at the injury report, Brian, and see where the Cowboys are. Like, it's just a lot of limited guys. Probably because they just played a game Monday.
Sure.
It's Thursday. They'll probably ramp it up one day, maybe this week.
Yep.
Then on to walkthroughs and on to playing the game. So that's how this is going to be. We're going to be breaking down both sides of the Eagles today because it's a short week. You know, some other outlets decided to do it a little early, talk about Eagles yesterday. But, man, Brian, I didn't think it was the right time to move on from that Raiders conversation. I think there was a lot of people that still wanted to talk about how their game went and how the defense improved. And, hey, man, we had some cool little numbers on Crown Global's YouTube, Brian.
Sure.
So that all worked out. But today we're going to double them both. We're going to talk about the O and D for the Cowboys versus Eagles today. Brian, and I went back to the last couple of games for the Eagles.
Sure.
And I think that's when they was playing some really good defense and some really terrible offense. But that was against good opponents. So I feel like I was ready to learn something there. Let me just ask you this. Voch says this, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that in these last two games, Green Bay and Detroit versus the Eagles, that their defense took advantage of maybe some shortcomings on the front line for Lions and Packers? Maybe that the offensive line wasn't all the way ready to deal with what a Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Jaelan Phillips combo looks like, Brian?
Yeah, I think to me when you look at the Eagles and the trade that they made for Phillips, I think it's a really good move for them.
Yeah.
And we remember going into the season what week one, there's so much unknown about the Eagles and really what was going on with them as a defense. We kind of had an idea coming off the Super Bowl and stuff, maybe the guys they had. But, give Howie Roseman and those guys a lot of credit, though. They figured out that their pass rush wasn't where it needed to be. They could talk about Jalen Hunt and all these guys, they can talk about all that as far as, a pass rush and this and that and the other.
Yeah.
But they realized that they needed to go out and get something. I think the addition of Phillips has given them not only a pass rush element to their game, but they've also given him a pretty good run defender. And so when you watch him, especially these games that he has played in Philadelphia, he has done a really nice job of fighting tight end blocks, fighting tackle blocks, being in on plays, creating negative plays, being that guy. I know myself watched him a little bit before the trade deadline at Miami because Dallas was potentially talking about him. And I'm thinking, man, this guy's all right. If you want to go out and get a real edge, this would be a guy that you go and trade for. And for them to give a third-round pick to a guy that's brought them a little bit of that element to it, I think that was a really, really good move. They're starting to get healthier, though, too, Voch, with Dean coming back at linebacker. And they've kind of tried to figure out some things, and with Makuba and stuff like that at safety. So they've made some adjustments to their defense. But it's a really, really solid group across the board.
I think they do a really good job covering Bryan Broaddus. I was watching, and these past two games, there's a lot of receivers to evaluate, and I think that they dealt with those wide receivers, decently.
Yeah.
I do think that this Eagles defense over time has just played and gotten better. If you look at the Cowboys versus Eagles week one, we were kind of looking for a Dory Jackson. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, hey man, where you at? And I do think that's going to be part of the program this week as well.
Yep.
But Dory Jackson played well the past 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like as long as he's kind of doing his thing, the rest of the defense kind of rises with him. I think they really wanted to get Ringo off the field, and I think that's kind of paying off for him. But in terms of bringing Pickens and Lamb to the party or whatever, I think that's pretty much where you're going to be looking at. Like the Eagles didn't have Carter last time,
right,
when the Cowboys played them, so you got to deal with that. But I think that may have been cool for us because our offensive line has had time to grow a little bit. So they've grown over these past, few weeks. So the Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter is going to be a matchup, but I don't think it's necessarily a mismatch, so to speak. Jaelan Phillips versus Terrence Steele, because Phillips will mostly play that side,
right?
Versus Terrence. I think that's where your biggest fight's going to pretty much come.
Sure.
But if you can find a way to deal with him, and honestly, Brian, I think Guyton versus Hunt, I think that's cool.
Right.
Because in week 1 it was cool.
Sure.
But if you want to throw that same Max Crosby package where we pulling people at Phillips or maybe we chipping people at Phillips, I don't mind helping Terrence Steele at all.
Yeah.
Because I think if you can block these guys up front, I think you'll be able to do some things versus that Eagles secondary.
Yeah, I think Dallas did a pretty nice job with him. And you mentioned about the young guys inside, and how they've kind of, Booker has developed as, you got BB,
He's playing really well.
Yeah, you got those guys that are kind of doing those things. So, but the hard thing right now is, though, you have, you look at Tyler Smith, and Tyler Smith clearly is dealing with something with the knee and all that, the tendonitis and things. So, the next 3 games are going to be difficult for him. I mean, he's still playing at a high level, but not to the level we've seen in the past. So they're going to need their inside 3 to win against this Philadelphia Eagle group. We talked about that in week 1, that you're going to have to do that. You're right about the things, maybe treating Phillips a little bit like you treated Max Crosby, with some of the different looks, not giving him the same look over and over again. You mentioned Adoree Jackson in this game, and I still feel like that's the point of attack where you need to think about. He is going to play the wide side of the field. You got on the other side, when you look at Mitchell is going to, and this is where we didn't know, Voch, about George Pickens. We'd seen George Pickens in training camp and practice. What happened in this game, all of a sudden, it turned into Mitchell was carrying, in the week 1, was carrying Pickens on several routes. Yeah. And then what happened? CeeDee Lamb started going off.
Got
on the other
114 yards in the first half.
Exactly.
Drops in the second half that would have put him in like 200 yards.
What did Vic Fangio do? Vic Fangio then took Mitchell off Pickens and then put him on Lamb. And Lamb's numbers went down in the second half. So I would not be surprised. Now, what we know now is that Pickens is a bad man, and Lamb is a bad man. So now the Philadelphia has got to figure out, like, okay, who are we going to travel with, or who are we going to try and take out of this game if we can, or who are we going to? Mitchell, to me, is the eraser. Now, you could deal with things out of the slot, I mean, depending on what you want to do with Lamb, because then you've got Cooper DeJean inside. But how you match up against Adoree Jackson, I think, once again, will be the key in this football game. He has played well, you're absolutely right, the last couple of weeks, but now you have to think about, like, do I want to attack Mitchell? There were a couple balls that actually did go at Mitchell, but you need to think about if Adoree Jackson's on the field or Ringo gets on the field. Those are the guys you absolutely need to go after. But now, instead of having kind of the unknown of Pickens, you've got 2 guys that you can hang your hat on.
I think you'll be able to run the football too, Brian. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It ain't going to be the easiest thing to do in the world, but I do think that the Cowboys kind of operate best when they're running the football. I just wouldn't be afraid to do it. They got some good dudes on the inside, and I think we do as well. I think, if anything, what I've learned about this Cowboys offensive line is that they could be a really good run blocking unit. Like, they get they push people off the football. This ain't just that they did well versus the Raiders last week. Like, they push anybody off the line of scrimmage. It's just that, we real good. We got to get the ball to CD and Pickens, so we have to throw the ball sometimes. But I wouldn't mind just coming out, running the football first, just a power running approach, and then playing off of that, Brian. But
well, you got to remember too that when Jahad Campbell was making his first start, because there was no Dean, and so now it's a little bit different element with Dean. I think because you look at how he plays. Campbell has a nose for the ball, but that was his first start. Yeah. But you look at their run defense is a little bit different. But what was interesting, going back and watching the Giants play against these guys, when the game was in New Jersey there, the Giants had some success running the football. I mean, you could see and you mentioned the element. when it was it Cam Scattaboo?
Yes, sir.
They had some power elements to their game, and it was inside. It was on the edge. That gave me some encouragement, though, okay, well, Dean, whoever they play. I mean, there were times when all of a sudden Reed Blankenship, the safety, came flying up, and then the ball goes past him. He misses a tackle in space. So there were some runs in these games when you watch the Eagles play where they didn't fit it well and they didn't tackle well. And even going back to the Dallas game in week 1, Williams had some success running the football, but I think a lot of it might have been for the inside presence was gone, but they also were starting a rookie linebacker. But to your point, I don't think I would shy away from it. I think I would go after it. Just watching the Giants tape and watching how that power element was to that team and how it helped them in the game.
Man, Hunter Lipke sure was active and did a lot more than he done all year, bro.
Sure.
I was like, man, what's going on with this Hunter Lipke, this new burst of Hunter Lipke action, Brian? It even got me thinking that those passes that would go to Schoonmaker, did those go to Hunter Lipke?
Sure.
That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out and get
Sure.
to now. And Lipke's a fullback, somewhat tight end guy.
Right.
Wing, F, wherever you want to put him. Brian, do you think that was a Raiders game plan thing, or do you think that Hunter Lipke's probably going to be involved a little bit more moving forward as a non-Ferguson, non-receiver target? Because throwing the ball to Luke, you don't really get nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? But Lipke at least gets you first downs and hard.
Yeah, I think to me it was really more about where they wanted to attack the Raiders in the perimeter. Yeah. I think that and what when you look at Hunter Lipke, he's a guy that they've used him before on that screen where all of a sudden they use like a one-man screen where they take him out there and they block him. But this time against the Raiders, as you saw and you brought up, it was more about trying to get him in space or hand him the ball and be physical that way with it. I think a lot of it had to do was they probably felt like that the Raiders weren't good enough playing in the flats. We've seen the same problem with the Cowboys, up until like this last game. Dallas has been struggling having to deal with playing flat defense. And I think that the Cowboys saw an opportunity. But throwing the ball to Hunter Lipke is not a bad option. He finds a way to finish forward. He's a physical runner. He has a nose for the sticks. He's a guy that can kind of get you the first down or get it close to where the next play you can do some good. So I would anticipate that you might see him more. And if it means taking Luke Schoonmaker out of the equation, I don't think that's a bad thing either.
Yeah, Brian, we don't have an ad today, so I just want to, let all the people listening know, man, hit the like button. We ain't doing nothing else. Appreciate y'all for being here with us. Brian, let me ask you this, man. Let me tap into the opposite side of the ball real quick.
Yeah, sure.
We talked about some of the things that the Eagles are going through, and we've used words like the Cowboys run, the next run of opponents. So
right.
If they have any issues on their offensive line, that the Cowboys defensive tackle unit can kind of take advantage of those things. We're looking at the Eagles, Brian. Cam Jurgens is in the concussion protocol.
Right.
So probably won't even see him, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
It's a possibility. But if they have a center that's going to step up and play, is Brett Toth.
Yeah.
I think that he ain't all that good, Brian.
Yeah.
And I think the Cowboys can take advantage of that on top of Lane Johnson not being available. I've been saying Fred Johnson name for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I know people don't know when I first said it. But,
sure.
Backup tackle, I think he's another guy that you can kind of take advantage of. Now, Brian, I've been doing a bit all year. While I scroll down to the practice squad.
I was just looking.
Let me see who over there. Let me see who on the Eagles practice squad.
Is there a guy named Felix Falalo?
Luke Felix, that's a hyphenated name.
Yeah.
Felix Falala. You remember how Holland Pierce, the rookie, the big boy from Rutgers?
Yeah.
He over there too.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, normally, if I'm doing my bit,
yeah.
I say, hey, man, it don't matter if Luke Felix Fualalo out there.
Yeah.
Let me say Fualalo.
Fualalo.
I would normally say that he could block us up, Brian.
Sure.
But to be fair, I think
you identified Will Putnam last week as the blocker guy.
I sure did. But, Brian, I'll say the Cowboys did a pretty decent job with the hell out the backup people.
They sure did. They sure did.
So I won't just pop out there and say that with the boy Toth, Brett.
Yeah.
I won't come out and say that Brett Toth and Fred Johnson are gonna have Pro Bowl level days.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that. I'm giving the Cowboys an opportunity to prove me wrong here with the new guys they have up front and this stable edge unit that's rotating a lot less now. I think you have an opportunity with the whole right side of this. The whole from Mailata going to be over there. Mm-hmm. What I wouldn't do, Brian, is I've noticed Clowney been playing a bunch of the left side over the right tackle, and Donovan Ezraku's over the left tackle.
Mm-hmm. Flip it.
If it's me, Brian, I think Donovan Ezraku and James Houston are your best rushers.
Right.
I sacrifice Clowney and put those two over on Fred Johnson. That's what I would do.
Put him on Fred Johnson.
I would put my best guys, James Houston and Donovan Ezraku,
over
on Fred Johnson.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought, okay.
And I'll leave Clowney over there with.
I was thinking you were saying you're going to put Clowney over there, and I'm like, okay, I got you. I got you.
I want those two to be dealing with Fred Johnson. I think we're going to have a ton of fun over there. I think your speedy, bursty guys like your Osa.
Yeah.
Put him over Landon because Landon ain't turning very well.
Right.
Landon gets turned a whole bunch.
Sure does.
Gap exchanging and stuff. And I want to be real strong, powerful with Quinnen and Kenny over Brett Toth and Tyler Steen.
Yeah.
I think you have a great opportunity to whoop some ass in the middle. And if you look at how the Packers and the Lions are currently built, like they got the edge rushes, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they got Aiden Hutchinson, Michael Parsons, Sean Gary, whatever. But we're a Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark operation.
Sure.
I want to put those interior guys on the left guard to the right tackle.
Right.
And that's what I'm going to try to get to Jalen Hurts.
No, I think you're clearly onto something here. And to me, if Cam Jurgens does not play, this Eagle team will be in trouble in the middle. They've had issues at center when he has not been there. Let me tell you something else they've had issues with. This is a different team when it comes to running the football and throwing the football with no Lane Johnson on the field. You look at the yards per carry, you look at the yards per attempt. When Lane Johnson is not playing, this team has had its struggles doing offensive things. And I feel like there's a couple of different places that the Eagles are compromised. I think there's three spots. I think they're compromised, as you mentioned, with Fred Johnson at right tackle. I think they're compromised at center with no Cam Jurgens. I think they're compromised at left guard. And I say this with Landon Dickerson because what he's done is you go back the eye test. Go back and watch how he plays one-on-one against people. His quick pressures are up. His pressures are up. His sacks are up. When you get him in a one-on-one situation, his numbers turn into garbage. So how do you combat that? What do? You could talk about maybe covering. You could play like what we call like a bear front, a double eagle. You cover the center, you cover the two guards. You play the old Buddy Ryan 46 defense is what you do. Outside shoulders of the guards, head up on the center. And that way you cover everybody up and you make him have to block. Now, sometimes what that will do is if you play these 46 defense or that bear front, it helps you also in RPO games is what it does. So if you're worried about Jalen Hurts pulling the ball and running and all that stuff, if they get back to that element, then that can kind of take care of you. But I'm trying to find a way to match up as many of these guys one-on-one. And I will say this about Jordan Mailata. I think Jordan Mailata is a hell of a football player. I will say the fact that now Donovan Ezraku is seeing him for the second time will help him. I think Donovan Ezraku will remember in week one what worked and what didn't work. And there's a lot of didn't work in that football game for him. It was a struggle, but now he kind of realizes, okay, I can't let that big son of a gun get his hands on me or it's going to be a problem. There were a couple of times where he drew some holding calls, wasn't called in the game. But I think the fact the second time around of playing Jordan Mailata, if he has to make that matchup, I think he'll be better equipped for it.
Yeah. I agree, Brian. You ain't said nothing wrong yet. And
Yep.
I've made this point before, but I'll say it again because it kind of works with what we're saying right now. Is when you play Vegas, you got pressure on them, but they're
5 guys can't block for Vegas.
You can't block those guys one on one. Go back and watch the film we did yesterday.
Yeah.
The Cowboys did a really good job of creating one-on-one situation across the board there.
Right.
But the Raiders wanted to get rid of the ball quickly.
They did.
Like, that's their game. Like, even prior to playing Dallas, it's not like the Raiders made an adjustment and they threw the ball quickly because the Cowboys' pass rush was getting to them.
Right.
As a team, they want to get rid of the ball quickly. The Eagles, it's either going to be big play or Jalen Hurts running around in a circle.
Yeah.
I think both of those give you an opportunity to put some pressure on him, especially if the pressure's coming from the middle. You ain't got to do a whole bunch to take A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith out of the game because Hurts will do it for you.
Right.
I think if you just deal with Barkley, and you could handle him in pass blocking situations too. You just deal with the run game and what comes with that, and Bigsby and Shipley will do it to you too. Just deal with the run game, including Hurts.
Right.
Like Hurts is a part of the run game as well.
Yeah.
If you deal with that, and what I think is most important, Brian, Cowboys got to score.
Yeah.
Cowboys on offense got to score.
Right.
We can look at, I was listening to ESPN this morning. I shouldn't have. But Hurts get a lot of credit for what the defense been doing.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And honestly, Brian, I think when those games are so close, especially the last two, Lions and Packers, you give Hurts a lot of room to not need to push.
Right.
To not have to put his foot on the gas a little bit. I think I want Hurts to put his foot on the gas a little bit. You want to speed him up a little bit. When he get to just sit around and chill or whatever, he'll do bad things to you every now and then. I want to put points up early. I want to deal with the run. And if you go up like 2 possessions.
Sure.
2 possessions, Brian. I think that'll really put it in. And then, because it sounds crazy as hell, but your pass rush set is your 5-man front.
Right.
You line that stuff up out there, Brian. I think it's going to be a cool little.
Yeah, I think to me there, and man, you make some really good points about this. But the thing that I want to do when you're looking at A.J. Brown has a gripe. He honestly has a gripe. He ain't
wrong either.
He's not wrong. He's got a gripe about the way this offense is playing right now and what the offense is. When your primary 3 routes are go, hitch, and slant, you're a very limited offense. And you can tell, Chad Ochocinco's like, I could tell by alignment what route A.J. Brown's going to run just by where he is on the field, just by where he's lined up. Go, slant, hitch. That's it. Used to be a thought, too, that this team was a bunch of big crossing routes. They'll do the rubs and stuff, still an element to their game. It's still a problem. But they're now mid-pack when it comes to that. This team used to run the wheel routes, the crossing routes, all these things. They don't attack the middle of the field because the quarterback doesn't like to throw the middle of the field routes. He won't do that. He just doesn't like to throw the intermediate to those long routes where he has to catch somebody coming across the field. Sure. It's been an issue. The protection at times has been spotty, and I think a lot of it has to do with the health of the offensive line. You mentioned about holding the football, but there's some very, very basic things they go and do on offense. I will say this about Jalen Hurts, though. He doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. I went back and said, okay, computer, give me all the interceptions, not knowing, thinking there was probably 5 or 6 interceptions there. 1. Against the Giants. That's it. They're one of the least amount of dropbacks in the league, Philadelphia Eagles. They really rely on the run. They rely on the run for a guy right now that's struggling with his explosiveness. 16 explosive runs. That's 10-plus yards on a run. He's had 16 of them when I talk about Saquon Barkley. Offensive line has been a problem. How about the number of carries he had last year during the season and then into the playoffs in the Super Bowl? They might have damaged this guy last year. Kellen Moore might have damaged this guy with his quickness and then his burst with all those carries that he had to take last year, because he doesn't look like the same player. When you're averaging less than 4 yards a carry with this guy and you're watching, and they've played some really good run defenses. They have. but they just haven't been able to get anything sustained. I mean, when you look at Barkley, he wants to attack front side and then cut it back. Teams have not allowed him to cut it back. We don't see the explosive runs. We don't see the long runs that we saw last year. So that's something that Dallas has got to make sure that doesn't happen for this football game. You brought it up. Defend the run. Make sure you defend the passing game in a way. Don't let the vertical routes hurt you. Don't now another thing too is if you blitz and you talk about speeding him up, that might be a bad idea. Because what this guy will do is he will find Smith at wide receiver. Mm-hmm. It's 20 of 24 receptions off blitzes, 1 touchdown. There's been some that's his go-to guy right there. We talk about the Dallas Goederts and guys like that. But Smith is this guy, if you blitz him, that's where he's going to go with the football. So make sure that if you do blitz him, you get somebody home. But you also now to maybe deal with his running game. If you blitz him and he breaks the pocket, you've got a guy potentially in Overshown that can spy him. That can, if Matt Eberflus wants to play a game where he keeps an eye on Hurts running the football, that might be the best option that he has.
Brian, who gets more reps this week? Savon Revel or Reddy Stewart?
I think it's going to be Revel. Okay. I think so because what I think is going to happen is that, and you've brought this up and we've talked about it a couple of different times, how the cornerback, I know in the shorts we talked about Diggs coming back, how that's going to look. I think to me that you might have a hybrid tight end killer when it comes to, and I'm saying this just through one game, so hyperbole, is that how you say it? Is that what it is?
Hyperbole.
Yeah, hyperbole. That might be
being hyperbolic.
I am being very hyperbolic.
Nobody's getting killed here.
But what's happening right now is, though, I see the length, I see the ability to break on the ball, I see the ability to play competitive football, and that's what you get with Revel. You get that type of player, and you got a couple of weeks coming up where you got these big-time tight ends, Goddard, Kelsey. You're not going to have to deal with Laporta at Detroit because he's on IR, but if he was there, I would think that you might think about Revel being that guy, that being that cover. I think there's going to be some matchups in this game where they want to make sure everything is short to Dallas Goedert. Everything is underneath the drags and things like that. But you got to be alert for him because he gets those third down receptions and is able to convert. So might be, I don't think that Stewart's going to be on the field particularly very much in this game. I think it's more going to be Revel, it's going to be Carson, and it's going to be Bland.
And Bryan Broaddus is bound to be a good game either way. I think both sides have done things differently.
Well, yeah. No, it's crazy that you watch the Eagles. They're the top in the league when it comes to 3 and outs on their offense. Yeah. You wouldn't believe that with their record. It's so weird, but they're okay with punting. Mm-hmm. They are totally okay with, like, 3 and out, punt, go play defense. They're totally okay with that. They're a team that struggles to get in the red zone. But what you have to know is when they get in the red zone, like teams like Cleveland, Tennessee, Jets, these teams that never get in the red zone, Philadelphia's right in that zone. But what the difference is when they get in there, 75% of the time they're going to probably push that thing in for a touchdown.
Yeah.
So be ready. There are going to be some 3 and outs. You said it earlier, Dallas offense, can you put pressure on Philadelphia and score and score and score again and make them have to play a game that they might be a little uncomfortable with?
Yeah, I agree, Brian. They got to score early, and the best way to stop the tush push is don't get in 3rd and 2.
Yep.
Don't get in 4th and 1. You know what I mean? Yep. This is what I want y'all to do. Voch says this. I want y'all to go down to the comment section of this video, and I want y'all to ask some questions. Okay?
Yeah.
Because on Fridays we do Q&As, you know what I'm saying? And me and Brian ask each other questions sometimes, but I want to hear what y'all got to say. I want y'all to go in the comments, leave a question, or I'll tweet it later. I'll be in my YouTube page later. I'll just put it out, and I'm going to gather those, and I'm going to come up in here tomorrow. We love good questions, you know what I'm saying? So don't ask us about a 5th round pick right now. It's November. We ain't had Thanksgiving yet. We don't know nobody in the 5th round. But y'all been doing pretty fantastic with that. So leave them in there. Leave your well thought out questions in this comment section or wherever I posted at, Twitter, YouTube, or whatever, and I'll pull those and we'll do that tomorrow. So be sure that you're here tomorrow, okay? Everything else that you're looking for, go to the website, crownglobalmedia.com. We're working on those vests. Y'all stay tuned, okay? Yeah. The audio, the merch, the social media pages, my YouTube work, it's all up there. crownglobalmedia.com. That's Bryan Broaddus. I'm VOCHLONBARDI. We'll catch y'all tomorrow. Crown.